Valerie, we are here for round two. How are you?
Yes, finally, hopefully this round is much more cleaner and crisp, but I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a very quiet past few weeks, but also very busy. I've been kind of out of the loop with everything going on. But it kind of sounds like you've been even more like headfirst into everything going on. So really excited to chat with you.
You're kind of taking a break, and I was taking a break before, and now I'm like trying to get back into that loop. So, yeah.
Love it. Well, what's the most interesting thing going on in Valerie's world right now?
So one of the most exciting things is just literally just yesterday, myself and my team that I'm working with here in San Diego, we just submitted the deposit for a venue for our Web3 San Diego conference for October 22nd.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's official. We're going to have this conference. And I'm so excited to bring, all of this education and content for San Diego and for the local community. So I'm
So
super excited about it.
yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. Like I said, I've been kind of out of the loop. So, I mean, pitch me the conference. Is it just like a local thing? Is it just anyone who from anywhere who wants to learn about the NFTs and the whole world? Give me a little insight into that.
Yeah, so nothing is super official as far as the details. What is the structure going to look like for Web3? But one of the things that we have discussed, and I'm really hoping we can implement, is the thing is like, let me back up a little bit. Like when I've gone to these other conferences, and I've gone to many now that has to do with NFTs and Web3, I feel like it's just a bunch of fluff. Like these conferences get a lot of speakers, and some of them are very new, just wanting the opportunity to speak. But then at the same time, it's like they have thousands of speakers, and you lose a lot of that like excitement where I feel like, okay, who am I going to see who's speaking, who really has knowledge? And you're going to have all different levels that come into a conference who are completely new, want to learn about NFTs, but then you have people who have been in it for a while, and they're looking for like deeper content and to hear from these projects. So I feel like it's just fluff. You just get everything. And people pay a lot of money for these conference tickets. And oftentimes the feedback I hear, and myself included, is like the connections that you make at these satellite events are way better than what's happening at the conference. So, I took that into consideration when we're, putting on this Web3 San Diego conference. And what we're hoping to do is make it free for the public. So anyone who's in town, who's visiting, who lives here locally can attend the conference for free. So we got the central library here in downtown. So I feel like it's a great symbolism where it's like, okay, you're coming to a library to learn, to educate yourself. So level one will be free for the public, where you can come literally learn the basics, like what is an NFT, how to set up your wallet, all this stuff, and then possibly have a level two where maybe we'll charge. It'll be something cheap, like $40, $50 for the ticket, where you can go up to level two and actually like, okay, do you want to take a course on how to learn Solidity? And we'll just have that running every single hour so people can repeat it, or new people can come and take that course. And then we also will have like more technical speakers who can speak on like the technology, the blockchain. And the thing is that this is a Web3 conference. So it's not specific just to NFTs. We're going to talk about DAOs. We're going to talk about DeFi. We're going to talk about security. So all these little branches that you have in Web3 to really help people understand and, what is this technology? Why should we be using it? And then people who are using it, what can you do with it? How can we help people to elevate what they're working on?
Yeah. So what's going to be the difference between this conference and some of the ones that you've been to in the past? I know we've been to a lot of similar ones. You've definitely been to more than I have, but I get what you're saying from a lot of the fluff, a lot of people who just want to show face and support for this new technology. But if you've been there long enough, you can kind of tell who really knows what they're talking about and who's just talking
Yeah.
out of their ass. And it's like, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most for my money or my time, right? So what's going to separate what you're doing to differentiate based off of what you've experienced at other conferences?
Yeah, I think the main thing is our team, to be honest. So I know from other conferences, unfortunately, they hire agencies who have experience in putting on events, but they don't know how to target it towards like the Web3 community. So, you'll go to these conferences and you're like, wait a minute, I'm here for NFTs or for, Web3. And then all you see is just the big stage, the platform, it's higher, and you're in the audience and it looks great. You have all the lights, but then where is all like the projects where you can go inside the metaverse and where you can have these immersive, interactive experience with the team, the founders of these projects? They're missing that community aspect. And so with us, with our team, we have myself, who's the founder of San Diego NFT Friends. We've got Chris Kringle, who is the founder of Bitcoin and Open Blockchain, which has been around for a very long time. And then we've got June and Jason, who are the founders of March Mingle, which is the largest and longest running tech conference here in San Diego. And then we also have Madison, who is one of the from HR, from Edge Wallet, who's based here in San Diego. We've got Keith, who's huge in DAOs, as well as Glenn, who's known as I Speak Nerd online. He's part of Bankless Academy. So I feel like we've got a really good, strong core team who is in, the ground, who is on the streets, who is using this technology. And we know a thing or two about technology. And obviously some of our team has experience on putting on conferences, putting on these tech, conferences for 13 plus years.
Sure.
So, I feel pretty confident that we'll have a good first one. And we want to keep this one smaller. So this one is literally just to launch our Web3 conference here in San Diego. We're looking at maybe having 500 members or 500 attendees. 500 attendees. It's only going to be one day. And just to see, get the feedback. What did we do well? What do we need to improve on? And hopefully improve in the next years. But yeah, I'm really excited. And I feel like that's what's going to separate us is the type of speakers we're going to vet to be on stage, the way we're, going to host this conference with the team that we have, and also making it free for the public who know nothing about NFTs, and just come and learn.
No, that's so cool. And I feel like that goes really hand in hand with what you're doing at San Diego NFT Friends. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I haven't spent a lot of time, obviously not being in San Diego. What has that experience been like, being one of the founding members of that?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, I feel like that's my biggest strength is just connecting people. I think in our last interview, I did touch on, like having these skills that I just developed from being on a volleyball team, right? I've been a captain for my high school team and into college, and you pick up on how to speak to people in different ways, and so that's, I've brought those skills into what I'm doing with San Diego NFT Friends. It's like I'm talking to my friends. I think that's why I've titled it that as NFT Friends. Because a lot of the times when you're in this NFT world, a lot of people have projects, and sometimes it can come off as like you're shilling. You're just trying to sell the person, your NFT. And that's not really this is about. This is really about how can we collaborate. It's also education and onboarding. So if you don't know anything about it, you can come to these meetups and ask your questions. There are no stupid questions. So if you're like, I don't even know what cryptocurrency is, can you explain that? Like, we have no problem answering, your questions. And if we don't know it, we try to guide you to the people who can answer those questions. But it's also been a challenge because I'm a one-woman led team. I do it all. I create the flyers. I create the events. I use money out of my own pocket at times. I go and find the venues. I call up the managers and say, hey, can I have 30 plus people, you know? And they're like, oh, you got to put down a deposit. And I'm like, dang, I can't do that every single month. So I'm trying to find creative ways where it's like, not only do myself have to spend money, but also be mindful of my community, because, you know, I know sometimes people are struggling, especially with inflation is high right now and we're in a bear market. And I want to be mindful that not everyone has the money to go to a restaurant. Not everyone has the money to go and buy a beer or drink. So now since we're getting like way more nicer weather during the summer, we're having more meetups at parks, for bonfires, at the beach. And it's just funny because, you know, I feel like there's like this ongoing meme where all of us people who are in Web3 are just like on our laptops and our phones and go touch some grass, right?
Yeah.
And so we're literally touching some grass. We've had some picnic on the grass. So yeah, it's been a great time and I love that community so much. And you know, there was a while there where I was trying to figure out, like, do I monetize this, right? Like, how do I pay myself? It's tough. You know, I don't have the funds to go and hire out a team to scope out a venue and put down a deposit. Like, is there an opportunity for me to monetize this? And I've been going back and forth, but I think generally because, you know, where we're at and the main goal for me is to have people locally and people who are visiting San Diego to see what we're building and to see the opportunities that are possible with the technology, is to keep it free. Mm-hmm. Why should I charge for something like that? I mean, it's just not the right time. Maybe in the future, but I just don't think it's the right time. And, you know, I try to look at myself as the consumer as well when I'm attending meetups. Do I want to pay every single month? If you're going to have a meetup every single month, do I want to pay? I'd rather have way more people who attend and learn than just trying to make a buck or two. And there's going to be other opportunities on other paths that I could probably take. So
yeah, I feel like that's always a struggle for a lot of people when they start getting into a space where they have, I don't want to say followers, but people who are interacting with them within a community, and you are seen as that leader of said community. It's like you're putting in a lot of time, you're putting in effort. Where do you find that balance of, you know, I value this community, but like there's at some point, there's got to be some sort of monetary aspect to continue to scale that, right? If it continues in that direction. So yeah. How do you think about that? When is that point where it's like, okay, like this isn't sustainable. Like either I'm going to have to monetize it or this can't grow anymore.
Yeah. And those are really good questions. And those are questions that I'm trying to answer myself. Yeah. You know, earlier this year, I was looking for a partner, you know, like I had brought this idea to Gary and I was like, how do I make a business out of this? And he's like, well, that's really hard. You know, he's like, you either got to hire someone, like if you're the community person, you're really good at that, but you're not great at like business building, you know, approaching people, you know, and all that, then hire someone. And if you're not, then believe in what you're selling, you know, like charge a ticket, you know, charge for your entrance. Because he's like, you know, people who don't want to sell their thing maybe are just afraid and they don't maybe truly believe in what they're selling, you know? And that was like a switch in my head, like, oh shit, like I really do believe in what I'm building. But again, at the same time, I felt like it just wasn't the right time. Sure. And I know where I'm at and I just try to be mindful of where everyone else is at, you know? And yeah, like I said, maybe not now, but maybe in the future, you know, I can somehow figure out how to monetize this. I've had people who, you know, when Gary did say that, like look into like maybe partnership, I was like, okay, I'm not that person who can go and, you know, get in a business room and, you know, get down to business like that. Like I'm just not that way. Like I just know that's not my strength. So I was looking into hiring some partners. But unfortunately, you know, the people I was interviewing, like, didn't have the best intentions. They saw my community as money in their own pockets. Sure. And that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm not just trying to put money into my own pocket. I want everyone to benefit. Like, I have all these ideas that I want to do. Like, I want it to be more than just a meetup. Like, how can I offer value to this community, and what do they need help with? A lot of these people, have great ideas, but they don't have access to the artists that they need. They don't have access to the developer that they're going to need for the NFT project. So I started creating a channel in my Discord called Freelancers. So anyone can just go in there and say, hey, I'm looking to hire a developer, it's just for this one time. And, people can start, getting some work and getting the people that they need. And so I was wanting to build a website for that and like have a database. So now like in the behind the scenes, we have our community who has all these skills, but then I have people on the outside who are businesses, bigger projects that want the artists, that want the developers, that need the marketers. And now they can go onto our website. There would be a database and they can see all the different skills that our community can offer. And I can start monetizing that. It's like, okay, you pay for this subscription or you pay for this package, and I'll send over, people from our community that are local who have the skills that you're looking for. So that was like my idea, and I was looking for a partner. But again, like it sucked. Like I had a lot of people who just like didn't want to do it that way. They didn't want to collaborate. They were just focused on the dollar signs only and not really trying to get the community involved.
Sure.
So I feel like Web3, that's what we're trying to step away from. It's just like only one person wins and goes to the top, right? It's like, I feel like in Web3, I really think that all of us want to prosper together. You don't have to step on top of a person to climb out that ladder. You literally can collaborate and work together to win and be successful, whatever that looks like for you. So it was very tough in the beginning, and I stopped that. I was like, look, I think what I need to do is I just need to keep grinding, keep having these meetups, even if it's voluntarily and for free on my end. I enjoy it. I really love connecting with people, but I think I need to spend more time building the relationships with people to really get a sense for what their intentions are, and we align in the values. It's not like you can just, like, I tried. It's not like you can just go and interview a bunch of people and find your partner.
Yeah.
It takes time to build the relationships.
Well,
and again, I didn't come, just to end, like finish that thought is like, I didn't come from a business background. I didn't know that. My background was in sports medicine. So, I didn't know, but now I'm figuring all of that out and realizing I need to slow down and just focus on building the connections and trust the process. And hopefully soon enough, like I can find the team or the partner that I need to build it out and hopefully create this website that I want and help people make money, not just myself, but my community.
Right. And I think a couple things happen when you do that, right? You've got the one piece of, okay, taking the time allows you more time to really formulate exactly what you want out of it or what you want it to look like. And you can also open up an opportunity to possibly even meet your business partner that has those values, similar to yours that are a lot more in alignment, more organically. But at the same time, also spending more time with your community, developing those relationships and really understanding what does value look like to them? What are the things that you can really provide for them? And it might be completely different than what you're thinking about right now. But then you're even more confident in your product and what you're selling, when you do go and start executing that vision. And ultimately everybody wins from that. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Yeah. And timing definitely plays into it. No matter what it is you're doing or thinking about doing, timing's a big part of that. So it's important to recognize that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, thankfully I have that privilege where I can just take my time and not have to worry about, all right, I got to make money right now at this moment. Right. I've got other ways where, okay, I'm getting streams of income. So it doesn't have to just be through my San Diego NFT friends.
Sure. In terms of like the market that we're in right now? Obviously, it's been a significant slowdown in terms of the money people are making within Web3, just on the investment side anyways. What have you seen shift over the last few months or even few weeks, just in terms of behavior of people within Web3? Because I feel like we're in a very different landscape than we were 12 months ago in terms of just the conversations that are happening.
Yeah, it is so interesting because, like I said, I kind of took a break from, looking at projects, investing and buying. And way early on last year, I was also flipping. So I was just buying, selling, and, try to stack up some ETH. But then, all of a sudden you had this trend of like free mints, like these degen moves where it's like you didn't know who was behind the team and you took the risk and you minted, and you would hope that this free mint would just like 2x, 3x, 10x, like crazy. And it was happening. Those things were happening, but it's like it was a risk. You could be minting something that's malicious. It could attack your wallet and just take out all the funds and all the assets that you have. And so there was that trend. I feel like I'm not so sure if that's still happening. I think it is, right? I think we're still always going to have something like that. But what I'm noticing is people want their IP rights, number one. They want the rights to their NFT. And I only mention that right now because right before we were on this call, I was on a Twitter space with the Moonbirds. I don't own a Moonbird, but I don't know if you had heard the news that Kevin Rose made the Moonbirds collection a CCO. And to my knowledge, a CCO is where now anyone and everyone can use that image of that Moonbird NFT. So if I had an NFT and you wanted to use it, well, you certainly could. And if you wanted to go ahead and trademark it, you also certainly could. You don't need to own the NFT. And so obviously many people are upset about it and wondering, like, why did Kevin Rose make that decision? And so there's like an ongoing debate. From what I've heard on that Twitter space, it seems like they're going to keep going with that direction, keeping it as a CCO. So, I'll look to see, what are some of maybe the benefits that we're not seeing right now for that. And just keep my eye on it. But from what I've seen and hearing from the community, it's like IP rights to that individual is very, very important, it seems like, to the Web3 community. So, for people who are kind of curious about like, what does that mean, IP rights to your own NFT image? I think people are wanting to create businesses with their images, whether, is that a clothing line with an image of their NFT on the t-shirt and on their merch? Is that like they come up with, a brewing company, and on the beer can, on the bottle can is their NFT image? There's so many things people can and want to do. And I think people are trying to learn how to do stuff like that. And then plus license out their NFTs to companies who want to use these awesome looking NFTs and maybe not necessarily buy the NFT, but license it from that individual. And so I think people have this idea of like, it's really important to have ownership of your IP. So I think that's something that I think people are going to look at way more carefully now when it comes to these NFT projects that are being released, is what do the terms of service look like for that project? Do you own your IP rights? And does the team have the ability to change that if they want to? Or will it always forever be that you own your IP rights? So I think people are going to look at it more closely from that legality standpoint as well. And then something else is I think people are looking for more depth of the project besides, like, okay, cool, you're releasing merch. Awesome. Yeah. Now what? What's next with your, so they're looking for deeper utility. And one of the projects that I'm really, really interested in, like, attending, like, 2 to 3 Twitter spaces a day for is a project called 10K TF. And I highly recommend anyone who doesn't know about it, go and do your research. And, I'm not here to show that project, but they've released some amazing like storyline with that project. And they're keeping us on the edge of our seats, like what is happening next. It's not just like, oh, they have merch. They haven't even really released merch, but they have a really big storyline where there's like amazing content that's being put out on Twitter. So it's not just like, oh, you're reading a story on a Twitter thread. They're actually attaching like meaningful artwork, meaningful videos, almost to the degree it's like, damn, this looks like a movie trailer. Like this looks like a movie is about.
I saw the one Beeple retweeted.
That looks dope. Okay, yeah. So you know what I'm talking about, right? It's just like the artwork and the graphic, the storyline is insane. And I want to see more of that from other projects. Like, what is your storyline going to look like? How more deep can you get into the NFT characters? If you're building a PFP project, like, what is the story behind them? What is the universe you're going to create? And do you have the team to actually do it? Because I feel like, we learned last year, these projects were saying like, they were going to do video games. They were going to drop a metaverse game with their project, and just hoping that it would just happen. But reality is you need to have a team that has experience doing that. And if you don't, do you have the funds to hire out? And obviously, like I said, it takes time to build those relationships. You're not going to just find someone who has worked in the gaming industry for like 15 years and all of a sudden say, hey, I want to hire you. Like people are going to be like, why should I work for you?
Sure.
Who are you? Kind of thing. So it takes time to network with those relationships. So I feel like in this market now, when things are down, people are certainly building, but the consumers who are still looking to purchase, there's a lot of money that's still circulating in this ecosystem. People are going to like make sure that the team has the resources that they want to do on a roadmap, if they have a roadmap, and they're going to look deeper into the storyline. And do you have the IP rights?
Yeah. So in terms of IP rights, this one has me a little, I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on it, because one of the pieces and the ways that I think about it is similar to Gary, where he's like, I want to have full control over all of the IP, because otherwise, like, what happens to the overarching brand if 50% of the holders completely botch their IP, right? They put it on something stupid, or they end up in a lawsuit because of it, because of whatever they're doing with it, right? So there's all these different horrible things that can go wrong when you give up control of IP. And like, for example, Bored Ape, if somebody does this great job with this amazing restaurant or coffee shop or brewery, that's awesome. But then one person goes and has this horrible thing that ends up in the media. What does that do to the rest of the people's brands? Does it affect it? I don't know. We haven't seen that really play out yet, but it's something that not a lot of people know, and it seems like a pretty high risk. But I understand why holders want access to it, because there's a lot of value in doing that, especially when, for example, Kevin Rose has done a great job of building brands. We know that the overarching brand, he will do a good job of controlling the narrative to make people understand what a moonbird is eventually. The same way that like most people, even not in NFTs, know what Bored Apes are, right? But like you see a Bored Ape on this, that it already gives some credibility to whatever that brand is. So I see both sides of the coin, but I just don't know where I fall on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think, because I'm a VFriends holder, and it's like I'm putting my trust in Gary, and hopefully he's doing the right things to bring VFriends out into the world, and so more people know about VFriends. I've already seen though, he's done some things with the VFriends brands that I actually don't align with, that I don't approve of, and I've seen some of the communities be upset with some of the things that he's released as well. So there's always going to be those things where you're going to have the supporters and you're going to have the people who don't support anymore. So it is interesting to see that unfold. But, I think for people who are looking to build a business, who want to build a company, and, sometimes you got to go and hire out those people who can build your logo and stuff.
Yeah.
And now here you go. You got an artist, you paid for it, and you want to use that image, you think it's cool. And then there you go. You can put that, you can stick that on your coffee cup if you're building a coffee shop or something like that, So, yeah, I don't know. I see, like you said, I see both sides of the coin. But I don't know. I feel like I'm more towards wanting to own the IP.
I'm excited to see how it plays out long term, and if it's maybe these early adopters that typically are a little bit more mindful about what they want to build it on, and we'll have bought it on the front end. So a decade from now, when the projects that are still around and valuable are great, they're held by people who will be responsible for it, not people just getting into the space, right? Mm-hmm. So I can see that playing out in a positive manner, and I'm definitely hopeful that's the case. I just don't know that in the future there'll be many. I think it'll be the ones that are more collectible and heavy utility based that will have those opportunities. But Kevin Rose is doing the extreme opposite. He's not on either side of the coin. He's in a completely different ball game by making it a CCO. If everyone had that, almost makes the value of the IP valueless. It's out of control. I'd be sprinting to the trademark office right now if I had one, right? What ends up happening there? Because he's like nobody who first come first serve gets control at that point, right?
Yeah. Basically, I mean that's what happens with trademark. If you're the first, whether you own that moonbird or not, you can go and submit your application for that trademark. It's like that's going to be yours, And it's interesting to see. I don't know. Like I said, I'm seeing maybe he knows something that I don't, because again, I'm not a business owner. I don't build brands. So maybe he sees something that I don't. And again, I'm not a moonbird holder, but I can see why those who are holding a moonbird are kind of, on the edge. I don't know. Do they keep holding or do they sell?
And that's the question, right? Because Kevin Rose is a proven business person. He's built brands. He's done a fantastic job with a lot of his projects up to moonbirds. So there's a lot of reason to believe that he has good intention and is doing the right thing. People still make mistakes, but I saw a little snippet around this topic where he was saying, he just kind of brushed it off and was like, yep, that's what's happening. And that's kind of the extent of his statement, which is kind of I don't care, believe in me or don't. It'll play out in the end either way, right? Which hopefully it works out in his favor and he was right, because otherwise that's going to be a tough move to recover from. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a tough one for him, and I mean, all the holders too. I can see why people are upset around it.
No, yeah. I mean, the thing is I think it's great. He didn't have to have a Twitter space. He didn't have to listen to the community. I think that just shows something where he's like, all right, I'm going to hold this Twitter space. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate. And you just kind of hope, you can take it. And people are asking the tough questions. Is this set in ground, or can we go back and move it to being IP rights? People are giving all their different opinions, but he was taking it, and he did have, that reaction. It's kind of we are going to still continue with the CCO, and
I just wonder. What the strategy is around it, and why, if there is a specific strategy, which I have to imagine there's a reason he did it, why that hasn't been clearly communicated, why it has to be just kind of in his head, believe in me or not. You know what I mean? Because if I'm making a move like that, that's before you pull the trigger, what the reaction is going to be from your community.
That's so true. And I think some of the other things that the community is upset about too is in their terms of service, it looked like you owned the IP. It said something, don't quote me, but it was something along those lines that the holder just owned the IP right. So people are calling it, what's that term? Bribe I forget, but basically, like you're reeling the person
Yep.
in to think one thing, and then you
Yep.
go and switch the other direction, right? So,
But is
yeah, I
bait
think
and
that's why
switch? Is
people
that
are
what it
upset
is?
too, because I think
Yeah.
there you go, bait and switch. That was yes. So, people are calling it that, and I can see that. Like, if that's what it said in the terms of service, and you go and do this, it's like people weren't prepared for that. You know, maybe people didn't want to be a part of that. So, I know I've heard some people say, like, well, why couldn't you have released the second collection up front and say, hey, this is going to be the CCO, Moonbirds are going to remain IP, and just see what happens with
Yeah.
that round. Like, why did you have to go and take Moonbirds and switch it up on them? So, I don't know. We'll see. And hopefully it is for the best, right? For the community. Hopefully it does work out.
So if IP rights are something that people are excited about, and really want to see out of projects, like how do you see that evolving in, we've got time for the next 6, 12, 18, who knows how many months to where people are building or experimenting with new tech. There will be another bull market at some point. When that happens, what do you see that transitioning to? Because obviously the focus was very collectible focused, like massive collectability with occasionally started seeing hints of utility. And I feel like we're going to see a significant growth in utility with a hint of collectability. At least I hope so. But what do you think that will look like on as we go into the next bull market in the next who knows how long? Like what should we be working towards?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Or what do
That's a
you
really
want to
good
see?
question, 'cause
You're a
obviously
consumer too. What do you want to see?
What do I want to see? Yeah. What do I want to see? I mean, for sure. I mean, utility is like a big, thing. I do want to see, like, Gary Vee obviously said if you got a V friend, you had access to his conference called VCon for the next 3 years. And that was just, for sure something that was going to happen. And then he's releasing all these benefits, that you didn't know you were going to get. So that's pretty cool. I would love to see that more with other projects. But again, I think it's going to be reliant on the team. Do they even have that pool? Like, do they have those connections?
Yeah.
Do they have the capital to do cool shit like that? So I don't know. I want to see smaller brands win too, though. Like, I don't want to just see the big dogs.
That's my problem with that
winning
conversation.
all the time.
And we hear it a lot of people saying, oh yeah, like, are they a proven founder? Right. And it's like, there's so many first time founders, and I name all the same names that everybody hears around it, right? That turned zero into billions of dollars, some $1 trillion businesses, right? And they're first time founders. So why are they being counted out? I get there's going to be a significant amount more of them that will come in and lose, right? Because they don't have those capabilities. Not everybody does, but I feel like they just automatically start at a disadvantage when there's a mindset around, like, have they proven themselves before, right? Like, I haven't technically built a business, but if I come in, I'm only going to do something that I feel competent in doing from a business standpoint. And I understand what my strong suits are. I'm going to hire for the things that I'm not good at. And, the capital, I feel like, is based off of how well you market on the front end and sell out your project, because then you have capital, right? So I feel like there's so many different details that play into the perception of whether something is going to do well in the future or not. I don't know. It's a conversation I feel like people aren't thinking through, and they're just automatically disqualifying anyone who hasn't built a massive business in the past.
Yeah. And I've advised a few smaller projects, and one of the things that I always say is, like, even before you want to start building out, your universe with your NFTs and hire out your developer, start building your reputation. Start, where can you help people, rather than asking people like, what can you get from them? How can you support other people, and build out your reputation and start building out your community? Trust is a huge thing. And I think that's why community is, like, king. It's number one. Everybody has to have that community if you're looking to release an NFT project. Because it's like, without your community, where is your project going to go? It's not going to go anywhere. You can have the best idea, but without demand and consumers in your community, you're not going to sell out. You're not even going to sell a piece, right? So I think it's super important that ourselves be part of communities that we believe in, that we align in as consumers. And then on the other end, you're looking to build out a project, build out your community first, build that trust. Because as people learn, about scams, they're going to learn that when you mint from a smart contract, not most of us don't know how to read the computer code. We don't know how to read Solidity from that smart contract. So we're going to have to believe in that person who's in control of that smart contract and mint from it. So as people learn that, as people learn about scams, how are you going to make people, mint from your smart contract? You got to build that trust. You can't build trust just by saying, hey, here's my art. I mean, certainly people do still mint that way, right? And they love the art. But as people get more educated on, how you can get scammed, and you can get scammed from just minting, I think people are going to need to build out their reputation and build their community first and get people aligned with their mission, what they want to build. And then with that, you've also got the marketing from your community who is excited to tweet about it, to share with other people about, the art and the product that you're building. So in the future, I'd like to see more people focused on the community aspects. Like, keep building your reputation, keep building your community, and ask, how can you support others? Not just what can you get from others? Because I think that stands out when you ask people, how can I support you? And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to donate money. You can even just say, hey, I'll attend your Twitter space. I'll show up to your live IG, or I'll retweet, it could be those simple things. And
I agree. I think there's going to be a couple things that play into what you were describing. One of them that I'm really hoping for is we'll say the next 18 months, people are really focused when they're building on building things to create safety measures. So it helps make it, one, more clear when something is a scam, and two, hopefully helps prevent those things from coming in the first place. Because every time we have a bull market, we get a load of new people curious and wanting to explore the tech. And we saw what happened in this last run. I was a part of many of them, in terms of being a victim, not the one scamming people. I was the one that was getting screwed, right? I lost money, and I didn't understand the technology and what things I needed to have in place in order to create the safety. So I'm hoping that the platforms we're using are creating these measures to minimize that in the first place. But one of the things I really want to see is it not always be about these big 10K projects that sell out and they make millions of dollars on the front end, which is cool from them having the resources to build out and scale the business. But then, if it doesn't take off to the moon, then everybody FUDs the project, sells it, and it dies, right? I don't want to see as much of that. I want to see a lot more of these 100 to 1,000 piece projects in these much smaller, tight-knit communities, building something truly meaningful, right? I'd rather be a part of those, and then you have more people that are true diehard fans, to your point, versus just, I'm here to make money or I'm out. And there's always going to be a place where people want to make money. I get that, we're going to have those pieces, but I feel like there was hardly any conversations around those smaller artists, around these smaller local communities, like what you're doing in San Diego. Having a tighter knit community that all wants to help each other, all wants to support each other. We all have our own networks. Let's help each other get connected with the right people and help level everybody up as a community, versus just focused on monetary things and focused on the person at the top, we're experiencing in businesses today. So I'm hopeful to see a lot more of that. Those are a lot more fun to spend time in and really engage with all the people, versus some of the discords you see today. It's just I don't have time to keep up with all of this drama in them.
Oh yeah, definitely. And just to add to that, something else I was thinking about, because when you're talking about these smaller NFT projects don't get enough highlight on them, and something else that I don't think it's highlighted enough, and I would love to see more, in the future, is the public goods and services that is actually happening with the technology, with the blockchain technology. So I have this show every Tuesday called Popathon, and normally we try to highlight creatives in the space, but this past episode, I brought
Yes.
on Dr. Matt Rain, and he has an
I wanted to talk. I wanted to talk
yeah.
about
Oh, you
this
saw it?
because I thought it was so cool.
Okay, let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into it. But yeah, so what he's doing is he has his own NFT project, and his art is the protein. It's the protein molecule from COVID-19, I believe, and it's beautiful. It has like all these like colors on it that you would get from the dyes when you're dyeing the protein. But it's like this 3D model, and like he makes it art himself, you know. But the idea behind it is to get funding, and he just chose. I guess from what he's explained, and I might be wrong, but I believe he chose that molecule out of nowhere even before the pandemic was happening. So I believe that's why he had just chose just out of nowhere. I don't know if it was really out of nowhere, but that was the protein he chose for his art. But really, what it was to help crowdsource fund cancer research, to build out his team, to build out the software, because what he's doing is he's building out a software where he's using the blockchain technology for the FDA to use. So he said one of the problems that they face in the science community is you have all of this research happening all over the world, and you have this research being written on these journals, like literally, you know, you have the data being written, but then you also have them on different files online. And so when you're trying to get funding and when you're trying to get these vaccinations approved and these medications approved from the FDA, how's the FDA going to want to find that research, those files? It's all over the place. They don't want to deal with it. So a lot of the times that's why these research teams have a problem getting the funding that they need to solve these problems from these diseases, these cancers, all of these things that are happening. And so what he has been trying to do is solve that problem by using the blockchain as a database, as a ledger, where now it's time-stamped and it's public. You know, you can see, the FDA can go and see all the research that's being published, and it's all filed, it's all organized there. And of course, there's sensitive things that shouldn't be public, you know, person's age, and, you know, their medical issues. So keep those things private as well. So he's trying to build out this software. So I personally would like to see more cases like that being highlighted in the future. Like what else can the blockchain be used for besides just NFT projects? And I've seen other stuff too, where people can start tracking where their groceries are coming from, right? From the farm to the truck it was loaded on, the grocery store, what pesticides was it used, you know, and all on the blockchain. It's all recorded, it's all public. Now people really know, you know, what is that apple that they're eating? Where is it coming from? So just to have those, you know, use cases highlighted, and hopefully more people are inspired to build out stuff like that.
No, I agree,
you know,
because
public.
That's one of the things that I feel like it gets so buried underneath all of the media and publicity that just focuses on like the thing that's going to get the attention, the headlines, right? This project rug pulled, or this project went to the moon, or whatever, right? But then we have all of these amazing use cases to utilize the blockchain, just specifically the blockchain, not like NFTs necessarily in every case, but like to really show you why the technology matters. And it's so, those are the things that are going to make it just takes one of those use cases to resonate with somebody who has just been hearing like, oh, I don't want to get scammed, I don't want to play around with this. But then they're like, like that makes a lot of sense, right? And it's that one little extra piece that can really click with them and help them understand like why this matters, why this isn't going away, why this makes our lives easier, right? Rather than just so focused on the things that don't resonate with them or are negatives in their mind. And so I agree. I want to see more of that and hear more of those different use cases, because I know that it's going to be a part of every type of industry. We're going to find so many use cases. It's going to start taking over our lives to where we're not calling them NFTs anymore. We might reference it as the blockchain as the whole, and the way we reference the internet, but there's going to be so many different ways that we find to utilize this. And once we transfer eventually to using digital wallets almost exclusively, in the same way that they transferred to using credit cards, and now we have everything on our phone. Like the reason QR codes won't drop my phone. Reason that QR codes make our lives easier isn't because of the technology necessarily. Like tickets work fine, but we already have our phones on us at all times, right? It's the hardware. So because we have the hardware, all of a sudden QR codes make sense.
Yeah.
It's like one less thing we have to carry. But they've been around for over a decade. And we're just now, over the last few years, seeing them in every aspect, and all these different use cases beyond just ticketing for something. So I think it'll be the same kind of thing as we transfer to digital wallets initially on our phone, and then maybe we'll see it more into like wearables and VR and AR and things like that over the next decade. But as we transition into that, then it will start having a lot of similar use cases of, it just makes sense to have it on the blockchain because it's already integrated into everything else we're using for these bigger, more, I think, impactful changes in how it makes our lives easier. And then it'll be like, we might as well just do it there too. Right. And so I'm hopeful that we see that over the next one or two cycles. But I would love to see and hear a lot more of those innovations happening in this next term.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's exciting. And it's like, I'm already hearing of it. It's just like, you don't really it doesn't get highlighted, right? Because not everybody's using it yet and all that stuff. But there's a guy here in San Diego. His name is Haydar. And he used to work for intelligence, for the U.S. And now he's moved over into the Web3. He's a developer, and he actually is building out a loyalty reward system, but using Apple Wallet. So, most people have iPhone here in the U.S., and, a lot of people use Apple Pay, Apple Wallets. And so I think just earlier this year, Apple finally released the code to build onto their Apple Wallet system. And so he has been waiting for that for like years. He says he's like requested multiple times from Apple to give over that code. And then finally they released it. So he's built on it, and he's been able to integrate a loyalty reward system where I think he got a couple of local restaurants here in Pacific Beach that are using it, where now people can go, they can eat, and they can scan with their Apple Wallet and get airdropped NFT into their wallet. You don't need to have a MetaMask or any other digital wallet, but you can put it inside your Apple Wallet. And then not only that, but with all these NFTs and these loyalty rewards points that you're building up, now you can go and use those points, not just with that one restaurant you initially got it at, but now you can go spend it at the restaurant next door, or at the juice shop down the street and stuff like that. So he's working on building something like that. So that's like really exciting. And I know that's just going to be another avenue where people are going to be like, why didn't we have this on the blockchain? They're not even going to be aware.
And that's the point you need to get to. You want to know that you're not even realize you're minting an NFT. Like, we're not going to use any of that lingo in the future, right? It's just going to be a loyalty rewards program. The same way that we're not, get out your QR code. It's like, no, get out your rewards card. It's like, it's on my phone. Here it is. And it's a QR code, but we don't call it that. Right. Yep. So that's so cool. And I love the use case of the blockchain for that. I think we're going to see a transition into people being, and we've already seen a lot of this, people being able to mint NFTs with USD. That's the first thing. Like, buy them in the same way that they do now without any kind of MetaMask or Coinbase wallet or anything in between. And, I still opt to use my MetaMask wallet just because that's where I have most of my stuff anyways. But most people aren't like that. My buddy, who I just had, William Glass, I don't know if you know him, but he's a part of the VFriends community, and he has a financial services app that he's building called the Ostrich app. And what he did was he's like, basically he's a Web 2 company, a SaaS company, but he wanted to incorporate aspects of Web 3 within it. So he created what's called the Ostrich Rookie Card. And so it's a startup rookie card. It's a 1,000-piece collection. They're $500 a piece. And it's a way to basically invest into the company. And not officially where you get shares of the company, because we don't have legislation around that yet, and that would make it way too complicated. However, it's now on a ledger, the blockchain, that these people were the initial early investors. Like, you'll get some merch. He also said, like, you'll get a ledger, which is cool that he's incorporating everybody gets a ledger from it. But you can buy it with credit card, you can buy it with ETH, you can buy it with whatever you have. And it was a super smooth checkout process, and like people didn't even know that they were minting an NFT half the time. But it's all on the blockchain. It is an NFT. He did like an art reveal, and there's things that he can incorporate into that in the future that can now benefit the fact that it was an NFT where you wouldn't have been able to do that before.
Yeah. And, since you mentioned, it was like super easy, like people didn't know that they were, even getting an NFT. That's why I love POAPs so much. Like I had used POAPs, I think this past Christmas, and I made one for my family. And, I was like, hey, I made this piece of artwork. It'd be awesome if you guys all got it. And, I made them download the app. So that was super easy. You just go on the App Store, POAP app. And then I was like, yeah, just put in your email. So you don't even have to have your wallet. You can just sign up with your email address. Yeah, everyone has an email address, right? So my family got it, and they got their first POAP, which was really an NFT of like a holiday.
Oh, that's so cool. I definitely want to do that with my family now. That is so neat. I didn't realize you couldn't do that without a wallet set up. Huh.
Yeah, you can, and that's why I advocated for POAPs. Is like I think that's just like a great tool to use to onboard people into space and get them like the idea like, oh, you collect POAPs. I mean, those POAPs usually don't have any utility to it, but there's something cool to just kind of collect. So once you start seeing that collectability and it ties to that memory, you're commemorating the event, your holiday event, your birthday party, your baby shower, whatever it is. It's
what are some of the coolest things that you've seen people do with POAPs? Like utilizing them?
Well, I know people are you can use giveaways. So like if you had for example, we just had something called a POAP crawl. So actually that's one of the coolest things I've done so far is this past month in July, myself and some of the other community leaders in San Diego put on a POAP crawl. So it's just basically like a pub crawl where you're bar hopping. But now when you're bar hopping at each stop, you get a POAP. And for all the people who collect, we had 5 stops. For every person that collected all 5 POAPs, now gets entered into our raffle giveaway. So you can actually see when you're the creator of that POAP, you can see all the people that have claimed all POAPs, and you can start having this raffle giveaway. And yeah, you can actually give away whatever you want. So for us, we're going to give away either discounted or I think even possibly a free ticket to our conference in October. So yeah, those are some cool things you can do with POAP. And it can also act as a membership into whatever it is that you're building. So if you have something super cool and you just want to keep it exclusive, but like how you said, your friend said, you give, those first 1,000 people, you can see they're the initial investors. You can do the same with POAP. You can see the first X amount of people who are followers of your community, of your idea, whatever it is. And then you can eventually give back to them.
And for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what the heck a POAP is, it stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol, which is basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. It shows that you were in attendance somewhere. Typically, they're used for things like, in this case, a pub crawl. You show up, you get to scan a QR code, and then you can download this, or you can enter a little code that they have at the door. We've gotten them for different events that we've gone to. Different conferences will have POAPs. They'll have side events that you can have POAPs. And it's just a cool way to collect these little, essentially NFTs, but these little pieces of digital collectibles, just as memories. It's kind of like taking a photo that you were there, and it's a cool little collectible to just reminisce on typically. They're not meant to have any kind of monetary value, but there's a lot of cool utility you can do with them. And so that's really neat that you guys I didn't realize people were doing cool little giveaways. I haven't been on the creator side of one yet. So that's neat to see some of the back end that you can, I knew that they're all numbered, right? So if you make 500 of them, you can see number 1 through 100 if that is the key first 100 people, right? So that's neat, but being able to have like a grouping of 5 and see the wallets or email addresses that have had collected all 5, that's such a neat use case. Because that can be onboard. You can onboard people on that now.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that you don't need a wallet for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm such a huge advocate for co-op. I think it's like one of the easiest ways to get people to understand what an NFT is. Like, it could just be something that's a collectible. It's a digital collectible. It's like a scrapbook. It's will always be there on the blockchain. It's not going to go anywhere. So as long as you have the app and you can see it, it's there. And it's cool. It's like you can look, a few years ahead, and then you open up the app. Oh yeah, I remember, and 2022, I did Gabriel's wedding.
It's so funny because my mom is so big on all of her scrapbooks and her photo albums and her VHS tapes that I had to get her to convert to DVD, and they look like crap because of it. And it's like these trying to keep these ledgers of things that just, they're not permanent like they are on the blockchain. So that's actually a good conversation that I should have with her, and maybe see if it starts to click with her. Always finding little opportunities for that.
That just reminded me too, it's like when you're saying like these DVDs and these VHSs, they're not on the blockchain. So like once they've deteriorated or, like it's hard to really find them now, like they're not making them anymore. So I know there's like this one guy actually I met at San Diego NFT conference. I think that was like in February or March. Anyways, I met this guy and he handed me this hand-painted artwork. And he's like, I'd love for you to have this. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. That's awesome. But what is this? It kind of looked like the Mother of Mary, And he's like, actually, this is my aunt who actually had passed away. So I'm just like giving this out to people. I put it in different colors and everything. And so then we started getting to the conversation about like people passing. And he said one of the things that he wants to do is put people's memories of, their grandparents or their past loved ones onto the blockchain. So he said he had the privilege of interviewing his grandfather before he had passed away, and is putting all of that content onto the blockchain so that his grandfather's memory lasts forever. So that way, when even he passes on and he has children, they're going to know who his grandfather was and the stories and what it was like. And I thought that was such a neat concept and something like to honor your past loved ones. And man, wow, now instead of like hoping your DVD or your VHS survives on to like pass on to your family members, well, you can put on the content on the blockchain, and hopefully your kids will know how to access the blockchain in the future. It continues on, and that content will be. You can have your whole family
that's
tree
so neat.
on
And it's
blockchain.
not even. We're just talking about the DVDs and VHSs deteriorating. What about the things that you need to even watch them? Like, I don't know the last time I've seen a VHS player. Those things are relics now. So I have a feeling that the internet and however we're going to access the blockchain in the future is going to last a few lifetimes. At least I would hope so. So, in terms of like our idea of forever, it would definitely make it a few generations, I would hope. That's such a neat concept. But that's what gets you excited, right? Because that's like real life scenarios. It's not just talking about, I'm going to make money and flip this. It's like, that's cool and all, but this is where it gets really exciting and like, oh my gosh, I can do that now. I was never able to do that before.
Yeah. I think that's really important, right? People want to know where they came from, who their ancestors were. And it's like, someone like me, I know people are we're really into like the 23andMe, finding out their DNA, where did they originate from? But you don't necessarily have photos from those the first early ancestors, and so if you can start that now, and the next 50, 100 years now, hopefully your great grandkids are like looking back and they see, your videos, they see this interview.
Oh man, now you get my mind turning. That'd be so fun to even just start that knowing that that's going to live on for, we'll call it forever. That's such a neat concept. Yeah. And that hits people emotionally too, which is where that buy-in starts, right? People start getting excited about it. And I'm fortunate enough to still have a couple grandparents that are still alive. And even like, I wouldn't even have to start that with my generation. I can start that 2-3 generations back and then just backdate it. Like it all gets uploaded right now. But now they can even go further than most people will be able to.
Mm-hmm.
That's so neat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing, right? And just to have your family lineage on the blockchain, and just see, wow, okay, like this is what, people were thinking about that back then. This is some of the struggles they had to go through back then. These are some of the successes, all these turning points. And it's so interesting. And it makes the conversation deeper.
Like
makes
people
you feel
look at
deeper.
like your grandparents' old journal that they used to write in and write what they were thinking and their thoughts, whether it was just day-to-day stuff, or this is what I was thinking through and the struggles I was going through when I was starting a business or joining this new technology. Like that can live on the blockchain too. And that would be cool to see how my grandparent was growing up. Like I would be endlessly reading that thing. And that won't get destroyed in a fire.
I mean, that's so true. And we learn things from that, right? Yeah, it's so true. And one of the things, I don't know about you, but I know one of the biggest journal books, autobiographies we read was Anne Frank, right? She had her journal, look how that's had to pass on into generations to understand what was going on in the world at that time, and what was she going through? What was the people in that area going through? All the trauma, and how can we learn from that? So it's just awesome. It doesn't have to be obviously as traumatic as that, but it's important to see, right? To understand, and to hopefully be better, right? Build our future generations and make it better.
Valerie, this has been so much fun. I love this conversation. I know. I know. Maybe there'll be a part 3. Who knows?
So many different ideas.
But
there's so much.
I appreciate your time. Where can people find you? I didn't get to do this last time.
Yeah, so people can find me on my Twitter or Instagram accounts. The handles are the same. It's at VDizzle777. So VDizzle 777. So feel free to DM me, shoot me a comment, and I'm pretty good at replying. I'm pretty active on those accounts. And shoot me any ideas or anything you want to collaborate on. If you're visiting in San Diego, I would love to host a meetup around your visit.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Valerie. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel, for having me on again. I love the conversations.
Absolutely. We'll do it again.
It was awesome. It was fun.